What's up guys, and welcome back to yet another F1 video. As you probably know, F1 is heading into its summer break, so we will go around 4 weeks until the next race in Zandvoort. And now after 12 races we can do a little mid-season evaluation and see how the drivers have been performing. So in front of you, you have 6 tiers from S to F, with S obviously being the best, and F where they should probably look to do something else next season. And you have all 20 drivers except for Daniel Ricciardo, because he's only been driving for 2 races and there's not enough to judge yet. So we will probably come back to this video after Abu Dhabi and probably do another tier list. So let's get straight into it. And I think for everyone it's probably pretty obvious that Max goes into S tier. It's been unstoppable. If that car is the baseline with Checo, which it very well could be, then he's taking that car to the next level, like Hamilton or Schumacher did with their respective dominating cars, despite their teammate at the times being considerably weaker. But there is also a scenario where that Red Bull car is as good as Max makes it to be and Checo is just way off the pace, which probably is the more likely scenario, but still Verstappen S tier, no questions asked. In F tier, I am gonna put Nyck de Vries. He got sacked mid-season after 10 races. I never really thought he showed much. I think Yuki probably showed a bit more what that AlphaTauri car, despite being bad, could be capable of, and Nick just never really reached that. 10 races, I think people will say, is a bit too short of a time, but this is Formula 1 and he is by far the most experienced rookie that F1 has ever had. Formula 2 champion, Formula E champion, plenty of reserve seat time, plenty of simulator time. He should have done way better. And next to him in F tier, I am gonna place, well, a bit harsh, Logan Sargent. And I'm gonna put Logan ahead of Nyck de Vries, but in the same realm, his teammate is showing what that Williams car from race to race is capable of, and he is not anywhere near to Albon's pace, not even in qualifying, not even in races. And the biggest delta in race and qualifying time between teammates actually belongs to the Williams team. Albon is just way better than Logan, and I think everyone knows, despite how harsh it is, Logan is only in Williams for one reason, and that is to appease the American market. There are plenty of F2 drivers they could have chosen, which would have had a way better showing in F1 than Logan, and I think it was way too early to pick him from his first F2 season where he didn't even finish top 3. Up next, we're gonna place someone who has really been dragging their team down and who could and should have done a way greater job, and that is Lance Stroll. I'm going to place him in D tier. That Aston Martin car at the beginning of the season was an actual podium contender, and with Checo being on and off, there should have really been races where Max finished first and Alonso and Stroll should have taken second and third, and Stroll is just way off the pace. In the later stages of the season, when the car has been, I guess, outdeveloped by the other teams, and Alonso is only able to get P7, P8, the points delta between them has shrunken. But at the same time, whenever they get upgrades on the car, we will see Alonso fire back way ahead in the points, and Stroll continue to struggle. In a podium contending car, he's only been getting like P6s as his highest, and sometimes even struggle to get in the points. And his qualifying has been extremely poor in comparison to Alonso. So D tier it is for Lance Stroll. Alonso, his teammate, I'm going to place in A tier. He has been pretty extraordinary and he's really breathed more time into his career with this move to Aston Martin. I think he was very brilliant at the beginning of the season, and despite his car being worse or outdeveloped right now, he's still putting in a mega job for the team. And if there's anyone that can lead them back to the podium, it's Fernando Alonso. In the same realm as Fernando Alonso, I am gonna place Lewis Hamilton. Despite having a weaker car, he has been outperforming his teammate that many people think is on the same pace as him. I personally don't. I think George is a step behind and will always be a step behind because of his quote-unquote attitude problems. Lewis has just been stellar and he continues to outperform the Mercedes. A really great pole position that he had in Hungary. And if Mercedes can get back on the podium consistently, I think Lewis is the man in the team to do it. To join them in the final position in A tier, I'm gonna place Lando Norris, outperforming a weak McLaren car, and once they got the upgrades on that car and it legitimately became a podium contender, he was always there. Did a fantastic job, and in Spa, despite setting up the car for the rain and having a poor straight line speed, he still managed to go from last to P7 and went really long on a set of soft tires. Outstanding performance, really grown into the role as team leader at McLaren. His teammate I'm gonna place in B tier. This is by far one of the best rookie performances you've ever seen coming in. Like Verstappen's rookie year was obviously better, and you've had Lewis Hamilton, who almost became a champion in his first year in F1, but in the modern era, having a rookie come in and be almost on pace with his own teammates is probably unheard of. So I'm gonna place him in B tier because there's still a better job to be done for Oscar Piastri, but he is very close to Lando, and I think by the end of the season, don't be too surprised if you see them on equal pace. Placing both Ferrari drivers in B tier because they keep fighting with each other, they keep having poor strategy performances. I don't know what to say about Ferrari. And it can be either way. It can be Carlos ahead of Charles, and it can be Charles ahead of Carlos. They're just not doing a good enough job. That goes for the whole team. Charles has finished on the podium. I can't actually remember Sainz finishing on the podium this year. There's obviously a better job to be done. Qualifying from Carlos has been a bit weak this season, and despite coming back into the races, they have missed out on a lot of points. I think it would be extremely unfair to other drivers if you were to place any of them above anyone in B tier, and they obviously don't belong in A tier at the moment. So I'm gonna keep both of them in B tier because that's the highest I can reasonably put them. In C tier, I'm gonna place Nico Hülkenberg. Now Haas has one issue, race pace. They kill their tires and they're not really that good when it comes to long stints, but his qualifying performances have been insane for a car that weak. I believe that if you put Nico Hülkenberg as Max Verstappen's teammate, that he would do a way better job in both qualifying and races than Perez. I think he's faster, I think he's more experienced, and I think if you would have given Nico Hülkenberg the chance in 21 and 22 with that Red Bull, he would have been closer to Max. And with that said, I'm gonna place Perez in C tier behind Hülkenberg, because with the car that Perez has had, he should be up here, but he isn't. He's a weaker driver. He's had a horrible season. Despite 2 race wins, I guess he started dreaming about actually being a championship contender to Max and lost his head. 1 or 2 bad qualifying and then lost his mojo and couldn't come back. And now he's had 2 races back on the podium, but we all know the points gap that Verstappen has right now, and it's just demoralizing. If you were Max's teammate and you're that far behind, it would be criminal to put him in B tier or A tier, and he's not as bad as Stroll or the 2 chaps down here, so C tier it is. I'm gonna place Albon ahead of Piastri in B tier. I think Albon has done a really good job since coming to Williams, and this first half of the season he's really shown, together with James Vowles coming in from Mercedes, that these two can really bring Williams back to the midfield and possibly even help develop the car to the point where they can challenge the Aston Martins. but Albon has just been excellent. Two drivers that are pretty close to each other and rarely make it to the points, and really have had an invisible season. Guan Yu Zhou and Valtteri Bottas, I'm gonna place them in C tier, with Guan Yu Zhou ahead of Valtteri Bottas. I think he's had a better season than Valtteri, and yeah, I want to see more from the Alfa Romeos. I know that they're in the middle of, I guess, becoming Audi, and probably gonna race under Sauber only next year, but with some people coming into the team and the midfield being a little weak at points, you should have really seen more from this team that started off so good last year but has fallen off. In C tier is gonna be Ocon, and I'm gonna place him behind Perez. And the reason Ocon is this low and not up here is because his race awareness and some of the decisions, he's been pretty weak in qualifying considering his highest point was in Monaco at the podium. Him and Pierre are very close, but he's had the better results so far. So I gotta place him in C tier, but I think despite Checo's bad performances and Nico's race pace, in that car he should have been in the points way more often. And with Esteban being here, I'm placing Gasly in D tier. He just makes a bit too many mistakes. In Australia, he DNF'd his own teammates by going onto the grass and then dangerously rejoining the track, causing an Alpine double DNF. In Silverstone, he fought way too hard or way too foolish with Lance Stroll and subsequently got eliminated out of the race with some damage. Pierre in Alpine has not been the thing I expected. I expected more. Actually, I'm not gonna place him in D tier. I think this is a bit too unfair. I'm gonna place him behind Bottas. I'm gonna keep Stroll here. And instead of placing Gasly, I'm gonna place Kevin Magnussen here. Now Kevin has been driving that Haas. It's basically the same car. He's been driving it longer than Hülkenberg. Hülkenberg has just done a way better job and just shown that next year he is 100% gonna keep his seat, while Kevin is a bit, I don't know. I think there are drivers out there that you could possibly replace Kevin with, but they're a good duo, but I really wanted to see more from Kevin, especially in qualifying. In race pace they're pretty equal, but Hülkenberg is just way too good in qualifying in comparison to Kevin. George Russell, I'm gonna place him behind Piastri. Now, I think George's 2 seasons in Mercedes are a bit skewed. He beat Hamilton last year, but that's only because he was driving a consistent setup for the most part of the season, while Lewis was doing experimental setups in order to help the team get back on track to winning ways. He has the last Mercedes win in Brazil and has generally been solid, but his qualifying performances have taken a hit. And with Lewis not doing experimental setups anymore and both of them trying their very best, you're beginning to see that gap beginning to form again. And why Lewis is a 7-time world champion and George is a step behind. He has been outperforming the Ferrari drivers, and he hasn't had as good of a season as Piastri. So I think placing him here is probably the most fair. I don't want to place him between Albon and Piastri because I think Piastri has done a better job. And with that said, someone who has done a magnificent job with a tractor really, who could have outperformed Perez in that same car, probably these two in the same car this year. He has been on fire, and I'm really excited to see how much he performs after being paired with Daniel Ricciardo for a longer time. I'm gonna place Yuki Tsunoda up in B tier between Piastri and Russell. I think he's had a magnificent season so far. He really shouldn't have lost that P9 in Spain. I think with Max and Lewis basically shoving each other off the track in 21, you could have had some leeway because it wasn't really that aggressive of a move. He finished in the points again in Belgium in that tractor, with a really long straight at Spa. I don't even know how he managed that. He really deserves to be up here. Taking a final look, I'm pretty happy with the order that I placed these guys in. I'm really hoping for Logan to take one step forward so he can get out of F tier and maybe join D tier. I'm looking for Stroll to be more on pace with his own teammate, especially in qualifying, and make the move up to C tier. I don't think Perez can improve. I think we will see the same Perez that we've seen for the rest of the season. Max obviously can't improve. If McLaren brings another set of upgrades and you can see a race win or more podiums, there's a slight chance for Lando to get into S tier because he has done an incredible job. And if Ferrari can get back on track, obviously both of them can make it up to A tier. If Williams can finish P5 or above, you would make an argument for Albon to be further up. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with these rankings. Let me know in the comments if you would have placed a driver differently, and if you find my rankings to be on point or simply outrageous. I would love to see that in the comments. And without anything else to add, I hope you guys enjoyed this quick video, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Peace.